You got to open the close sign. That one is fine, but also this one is fine. And then he knows what he's doing. All right, so today, first let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And we're going to learn from the experience of the past. Because it's just, yes, we're going to learn from the experience from the past. So that way you and I would, the Bible is said and is stable, and also states that we must learn from the past mistakes, not only from our past mistakes, but also from the mistakes that are written down in the Bible. So the Bible is a great instrument. It's a great tool, not only for understanding who you are, but at the same time for learning from the mistakes of the leadership that is really, so that we won't make the same mistakes. So today we're going to learn about the life of David. But beforehand, I want to make sure that, because a lot of people have their own perception about the Bible and they read it with their own perception, but it's also an example. It's a book of examples in what to do and what not to do as far as the leader is concerned. So I want you to do me a favor before we start. I want you to tell the person next to you, God is calling you to be a leader. Go ahead and tell them. Okay? Now I want you to turn around to the other side if you have somebody else and tell them, hey, God is telling you to be a leader. All right? So in reality, when you think about it for 1 minute, in our life, we're going to influence around 10,000 people in our lifetime. In a lifetime, you have influenced so many people so far, you don't even know them. But in an average life, you're going to be influencing 10,000 people. So we're going to learn a little bit about the leadership that is written in the Bible. We're going to learn about David. But the first one I want to read to you is 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And we're going to go to verse 6. If you do me a favor, put it after verse 6. And I want you to do me a favor. I want to challenge you to do something from now on. Okay? As a leader, you must be learning at all times. That means that when you're learning, it's like going to school every single day. You learn from the people. You learn when you come in here. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and you can get your phone out and get your notepad and start writing notes. Okay? Because leaders must learn every single day of their lives. And in order for you, especially you young people, in order for you to be successful, you learn every single day. I know summer is coming, and you're like, yeah, I can't wait to go to summer and do absolutely nothing and play Fortnite for 14 hours a day. Not supposed to do that. And parents, I want to encourage you to actually assign them some books for them to develop their leadership. Because by the time they get to my age, they'll be in corporations, running corporations like that. So you got to understand that whatever your age is, it doesn't matter. You can start right when you're at that moment. And I guarantee you, within 5 to 10 years, you'll be in a better position than you were 5 years ago. How many of us want to be in that route? Right? All of us do. Right? So, and that's what the Bible says, that we must go, us believers must go from glory to glory. Okay? Yes, there's going to be some setbacks on the way, but those setbacks is for you to simply learn about yourself and about the faithfulness of God. So again, as it says in verse 6, it said, now these things occurred, and it's talking about the old examples of the Old Testament, to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did. So now, since Paul is talking about the Corinthians, it says, the Bible is to see the examples of what they did wrong, so you don't do that. Because even though it is a law, and that's what the first 5 books of the Bible is called the law, of the Pentateuch, which is written by Moses. It says, learn those examples of what not to do, so you don't do the same thing over and over again. How many of us here have a history that somewhere, somehow, in later in your lifetime, you repeated itself again, and you end up hurting you? Of course, because we haven't learned the lesson. But the good thing here is that God gives us the ability to learn, because He wants us to learn and become better. And like I shared last week, He wants us to be better, not bitter. So the person who doesn't learn becomes bitter. But I want you to look at the person again and tell them on the right side, you are about to become better. Tell them. Now look at the other side and tell them the same thing. You're about to become better. It's kind of funny, but it sounds good, isn't it? Right? But it's true, because the Bible promised us to actually improve. It talks to us about how to be better workers, how to be better leaders, how to be better brothers, how to be better church, how to be better parents, how to be better sons and daughters. And it teaches us all this bunch of wonderful things that we can apply in our lives. But today, we're going to learn about one of the greatest leaders that Israel has ever had. And today, there hasn't been somebody like him. Okay? So I really want to encourage you, especially young people, to take notes. Go ahead and get your phones out and take your phones up. And I want to encourage you, just like a few of them are doing here, is that you come prepare with the church and you bring a notepad and a pen and begin to write, because I want you to challenge yourself, because you are the only one who can push yourself to be successful or to be in poverty. That's up to you. Regardless of the situation around you, God has brought us into this wonderful nation. They put us in this great, wonderful spot. That way, so we can be a blessing around people. But how can you be a blessing around people when you have nothing to give? Amen? So it's not late. God just getting started with you. And I want to encourage you to think about that for one moment. That God is getting really started with me, but I've been a mess. I'm this and I'm that. And you know all the things from your past. But if you don't let go of the past, then you won't be able to embrace your future. Because that's what God did with Jesus. Jesus came over so your past won't be past anymore. So you will pass your past into your future. You see what I'm saying? Because what God wants to do is to use you to be a blessing to somebody else. But how can you do that if you're doing it in the future, but you still continue looking back? Leaders learn from their mistakes. And then they turn around and they continue to move forward. And that's who you are. Do me a favor. Do this to the person next to you. And say, that's who you are. Right? There you go. That's who you are. You're a person that is learning and is growing. Okay? So, this story about David, this is 2 Samuel. So, if you guys go with me, go to 2 Samuel, chapter 11. We're going to see, and I'm going to talk about the outcomes and what Daniel did wrong. Remember, we're learning from people's mistakes. If you can relate to this mistake, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to realize that if you can relate to some of these mistakes that he did, that means that God is revealing to you that you can now overcome it. See, the Bible really clears these things out throughout the whole Bible. Whatever the Lord reveals, he heals. Because if you think you can relate to that, that means that you're ready to be healed from it. Isn't that great news? That's what God is all about, is when you embrace the truth, then God will begin to embrace your heart even more, and he will begin to heal you even more to a deeper sense. So here in the story of David, it's the story of David when he was supposed to be in a place, but he wasn't there. So let's just begin to read 2 Samuel, I mean 1 Kings. Let me just jump on 2 Samuel real quick. And we're going to go to chapter 11. And this story in David. And I'm going to read it and I'm going to pause verse by verse. Okay? I'm going to read and pause, because I want to share with you some experiences that you and I must learn from. Okay? Verse 1. In the spring of the time when the kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. So we see that, number one, we see that in the springtime, the armies of different areas during that time, they were used to go out and war against each other. The reason being they never go out in the winter because there was a lot of people. And the springtime is the natural flow of water, everything's greener, the plants and the fruits and everything else will be accessible to you. So back in those days, back in David's time, they will set themselves off to war. Okay, because it's a lot easier for them to transport. The weather is warmer. It's in the mid-70s. It is not as hot in the desert like in the hundreds or anything else, because that causes problems to people. They didn't have the clothes that we have today. They didn't have it. They have leather clothing, wool, and they have all this bunch of things. So it was difficult for them. So during that time, leaders and kings of the different nations, they will fight against each other during that time, because to see who will gain more land, okay? Who will gain more respect? Who will gain more freedom? Okay? And then I'm not going to get into that, and we'll talk about it later when we continue with the story. So David, if you see that there, he sent his servant, who was the top general, Joab. He sent them out with the king's men. In other words, the king's men were the mighty men. They were the men of war, trained by the leadership of David. If you see it in the earlier days of David, David really spent time with each and every single one of them. Not only spent time with them, but also displayed them the diligence and the integrity that David had. And you see that when, for example, you all know the story how he was very diligent even with the sheep before he went out and fought Goliath. So diligence is one of the things that a leader must have every single time. But also value, okay, listen to me, value what they have at that moment. Your job, for example, put value behind it. The things that you have, put value behind it. Everything that you do, especially when you do it without gaining anything from anyone, value it, because that'll give you the proper tools to be successful. So at this point, now we see King David completely successful. We see that now the armies, his armies were the most feared armies, and his men, they were the most feared men of the whole world during that time. His leadership was at peak. He was winning battles, he was destroying his enemies, he was doing all this bunch of things, but he got complacent. Say this with me, complacent. Complacent, when you get to that point, complacent is a moment in your life in which you just are satisfied. That you just go in, and I'm gonna put the cruise control, and I'm just gonna coast. So it's gonna be in hills. But you don't realize at the end of one hill that is going down, there is no bridge, because the bridge fell off. And that's why we fall into problems all the time, because we're not aware. When you're complacent, you stop being aware of your surroundings. You say, yeah, I love my life, I love this, I love that. But you got to realize that a leader, and a leader like you must be awake at all times. And you have to understand, wait a minute, what's going on in front of me? Wait a minute, what just happened, and how do I learn from it? Wait a minute. How can I apply this new knowledge into now my work area or my family area, and so on and so forth? And that's how you become a better person. But we see David here that after all this and everything else, the success, the constant success that he had, everything, he got complacent. And all of a sudden, it says this, and then let's go read, continue to read one, and then the whole Israel army. And they destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained in Jerusalem. Now, during that time, David needed to go with his army because he was the example. He was the inspiration for his army. You have to understand, when you get into a position of leadership, you are the inspiration of your people. Believe it or not, the way you are and the location where you are right now, you're inspiring somebody, regardless of your life. Look at my mom, for example. My mom was a single mom of 4 kids. She ended up having only $20 in her pocket to come to the United States. We were very little. She had to leave her children, okay, to come to the United States. She ended up having her residency, and eventually all of our kids came here, and now all of us but one are U.S. citizens. You understand? It's just leadership is the ability for you to have the vision for your family, a vision for your work, a vision for your for everyday life that you may have, for the tasks that you have, the things that you have, because you have to realize that somehow someone needs to take charge of your life. Remember, if you don't, I want you to write this down. If you don't take charge for your life, somebody else will do it for you. Write it down again. If you don't take charge of your life, somebody else will do it for you. You have to realize, and we depend, and a lot of the times we don't want to do it, so people come in and naturally they go to a leader and they say, hey, I want you to tell me, I want you to be the source of my life, I want you to be the source of everything. And I just want to share with you, there's only one source, and his name is Jesus. That's the only person we really got to really embrace and so on. So you embrace and live by and learn from. And that's what we're talking about here. It's everything from the first, from in the beginning, so to the last amen in the book of Revelation, it describes Jesus because he wrote it from the beginning to end. And that's why this book is the best book that you can ever read for your life. It brings your life, it brings conviction, it may kill you, but it gives you life. You have to understand that as a leader, if you want to improve, perhaps you don't even consider yourself as a leader at this moment. And you say, you know what, I really want to improve my life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Moms have the tenacity and the tendency to do that because remember, one mom had 3 different jobs to pull 4 kids out. Okay? And all of us have that tendency, have the tenacity. So, for example, like I always say, single mom, I'm the product of a praying mom. So don't stop praying. Amen? My life is an example. So for single moms to be inspired to say, my kids are going to be good kids. My kids are going to be leaders. My kids are going to be this. And even parents. Okay? You have to understand that God wants to use you to be an inspiration to others. But not only you, but also your family members. You have to realize that. You have to embrace that. And your perspective will change about life. And you will begin to grow as a leadership because you're leading someone even when you don't know it. Amen? You have to understand that God is really using you. Sometimes when we don't want to. No, God is not really using me. No, he's not doing it. Yes, he is. Even if you don't believe in him, God is using you. Because he believes in you. He believes in you more than you believe yourself. Did you know that? But you don't know, Pastor, all my past and all this, and I've been in jail 15 times and they already know me by first name. They have even my signature on the stamp, so I can walk in, just stamp and walk in. So it's time to change. Today is your day to change. Tomorrow is going to be your day to change. Because you cannot be the same tomorrow or what you did today. Amen? You have to believe God designed you to grow. God designed you to be inspiring. God designed you to be more wise every single day of your life. Okay? So let's go back to the story of David. David decided to stay in the castle and neglect his duty and responsibility. That's one of the things when people get complacent. Is that David decided to stay in the castle. He wasn't supposed to be in the castle. How many times in our lives, and I can raise all my toes and fingers, and I can count countless times that I did this just thing. How many times have I fallen because I was doing the wrong things at the wrong time? And I did them over and over again because I didn't learn my lesson. But at that moment, when I realized, just the light came on and it said, this is causing me problems, I need to stop. Right? So don't underestimate yourself because you have a bad life. I got a question for you. Are you living in your past? No. You live in your present. Now your past may be that you did a lot of things wrong. Okay? But the past don't determine how you're going to become. Unless you want to. Right? Trust me, I used to be a sailor. I used to have the mouth of a sailor. I'll share this again. I used to cuss more than a normal sailor would. Right? But as this changed, my heart changed, this changed, my life changed. And that's what God wants to change you. He wants to change your heart. Because he knows that you're much better than what you think you are. He knows it. He knows it. Every single hair in your body and in your head, well, most of us, okay? And some of us are losing it faster than others, you know. But you got to understand that God has them counted, and he knows exactly how many of them are there in your head. He even knows your password for your computer. So, you see what I'm saying? It's like if he knows your future and he's sure of it, why not sure of him that he holds your future? Does it make sense? Of course it does. So let's continue learning with David. It said in this story, yeah, in verse 2. Let's go to verse 2 real quick. Put verse 2 for me up. You got it? Thank you. And he goes, one evening, David got up from his bed. Again, he was in a place where he wasn't supposed to be. Okay? One evening, got up from his bed and he walked around the roof of the palace. Remember, he's already enjoying his stuff. He's enjoying the fruits of his labor. Okay? In the palace, he's already the king. He's been anointed king. The people of Israel embraced him and so on and so forth. But he got complacent. And again, he goes in the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. And the woman was very beautiful. And David sent someone to find out about her. Okay. Point number 1. When we as leaders are not in the place they're not supposed to be, supposed to be providing the leadership we need to give, we will actually be exposed to failure. If you're not being the people of influence that you need to be, then you are setting yourself up for failure. Okay? Point number 1. Point number 2 that I want to make. Leaders must constantly work and know their purpose. And instead of keeping everything right, they need to learn to simply do everything, keeping everything right, doing the right thing all the time. Instead of keeping everything right, you must do, and I'm sorry, I wrote it down differently and it came out in a different direction, but it says here, instead of, leaders must continually work and know that their purpose is to do what is right at all times, not just keeping things right. So in other words, instead of keeping things right, do everything right in everything that you do. That's your job. That's how you improve as a person. David, in this hand, everything was running for him. He had thousands of successful men and thousands of logistical support, thousands of people that he guided and inspired in all these bunch of things that he did. And they were winning the war for him because he was the one who simply got the credit for it. Okay? And so David, once he got complacent, he was lingering because he was just simply not in his right mind in thinking about the battles. He trusted too much. He needed to be the inspiration. And that's how he fell when he saw this woman. And the woman's name was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. And the man said, "Isn't this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Verse 4. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about verse 2. The cause of David not being there where he should be caused him to expose the temptation. A lot of the times when we are not supposed to be in a place that we weren't supposed to be in the first place, it opened ourselves up to temptation. How many of us have been there? Come on. My hand is raised, so don't feel bad, because I've been there too. Yeah, I put myself in my foot so many times that I already know. No, I'm not going to take. I'm not going to repeat that, but it's so many times that I'm kicking myself in my rear myself because why was I there? Or why was I alone? Or I shouldn't have said yes in the first place. Relationships, situations, all this bunch of things. You have to think about those because every failure that you have gone through, now it's an opportunity for you to learn. When we were little kids, we did something wrong, chancala was flying all over the place, right? And that's how we learned not to do it, right? Because we didn't know any better. I speak on my pastors right here. That's a different story. But you got to realize something. That's how we learn. But a lot of the times we blame ourselves. But instead of you feeling sorry for yourself, have that motivation to improve yourself. Yes, we all make mistakes, but look where you're at today. Now, I got great news for you. You can be greater next year. You can be greater next month. You can be greater tomorrow. Because that's the opportunity that the Lord gives us every single time. We see, here's a couple of points. I got 4 points I want to share with you. And then it goes into verse 4. David sends his people to investigate who Bathsheba was, if you see that. Notice that David was in the wrong place. Notice that the cause of his desire was due to what he saw. A lot of the things may looking good to you, but they may not be good at all. So be careful. Okay? Especially men. Be careful what you see. Because not everything what's seen is not always what it seems. Okay? So be careful. Okay? Notice that in verse 4 it describes that she was married. Notice that. Wait a minute, she was married. And David already knew. Did you know? Let me tell you a little bit of history about the kings of David, the kings of Israel. They had to handwrite the whole 5 first books of the Bible in their own hand. They have to write them down themselves and then put it as their rule. They have to put it on the right side. On the right side, because the wisdom of God, they have to learn. But a lot of the times when we learn something and we don't apply it, we end up falling and then blame God for our shortfall. Good leadership, and here it is, that's for you. Good leadership will always learn from their mistakes, but also own their mistakes. Yes, I did it. I need to move on. Tell the person next to you this. You ready? Look at them right in the face and say, I have made mistakes. And I decide today to move on. Because I am better than this. Now give him a high five. You better do it some ways. Doesn't that feel good saying that? Sometimes it's not easy to let go of things of the past. But the more God brings you into freedom, the more of your past doesn't affect you anymore. And that gets used for your learning and growth. As a leader, you need to understand that you need to learn from your mistakes. But not mock other people's mistakes, but learn from them and give them support. That's how we grow as a community. This community right here, we grow as one body. We grow and support each other even in the midst of our failures. And the reason for that is because by tomorrow, the next month, or next year, you will be in better position than you were in the past. So whatever has happened to you, whatever it is that you've been through, you have overcome it today. Because it shows me you being here today, that means that God is preparing you to be better in the future. Amen? So I want to really encourage you for that. We're learning from King David and so on. So, for example, this experience, you see King David falling, he looks at a woman and then looks at Bathsheba. Bathsheba, he gets tempted. Bathsheba doesn't do anything at all. On the contrary, David calls for her to get the servants, and he ended up sleeping with her. Okay, he ended up committing adultery. Okay? And then after that and everything else, they have a baby, and the baby is born afterwards. But not only did he do that, watch what David did. What David did afterwards, he actually went, now that he's trying to hide, instead of owning his problem, instead of being the good leader that he was, he actually began to hide all that situation. It ended up sending Uriah, sending him to the front lines to be killed so he can marry Bathsheba. He did it himself. Okay, he ordered it. His failure, if you think about it for 1 minute, when did his failure start? Not being in the place where he needed to be. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. A lot of our errors, my beloved ones, a lot of our errors are caused because a lot of the times we put ourselves into predicaments, into problems that we shouldn't be in the first place. That's how we get in trouble. But if you're a person that realizes that, hey, you know what? I am improving. Yes, I am not perfect, and that makes it okay. Being imperfect makes it okay. Now, staying imperfect, that doesn't make it okay. You have to grow. Okay? And whatever it is that happened in your life, trust me, God already has the solution for you so you can become a better person. A better person of influence. A better person in a better position. In fact, wants you to do is to dream and picture yourself in a better position. But and I'm not saying to be a couch potato. No, he doesn't want you to do that. He wants you to really work for it. You know, yesterday we were talking to a young lady. She's in the early 20s, mid 20s, early 20s. Yesterday, my wife and I were talking to, because we're trying to invite some people from Argentina. Beautiful, wonderful people. We want them to actually come to church. We're going to invite them to come to church. They hardly know everybody. And I say, oh yeah, I know a group of crazy people that I go to church with, and they will love to meet you there. So hopefully soon we'll have them here. You know, let's pray for them. His name is Santiago and his wife is Monica. They're from Argentina. And I was talking to Monica's niece. Okay, and this was in the afternoon, and and she was sharing about the struggles and the things that she learned from. But she's about to, and she was going through college, and she's about to transfer to CSUN, right? Because she lives in a valley. And I said, I want you to do me a favor, because she truly wants to be a teacher. So I'm like, great. A great leader will bring up great disciples and great leaders in the future. So I'm like, great. So I told her this, and I said, hey, as you're learning in life, and I know you made a lot of mistakes, and she said, yeah. So I want you to do me a favor, take some leadership classes. And she just looked at me funny. But I'm going to be a teacher. And I said, yeah, but why not, instead of not just be a teacher with leadership? Now, let's hold on for a second. I don't know what your job title is. But why don't you do this? Think about your job title. And then add with leadership. The first title will not be there long. It'll increase. Because when you add with leadership, people will notice you. I don't care if people are flipping burgers, but they put with leadership. Pretty soon, you won't be flipping burgers anymore. Understand? So what are you doing in your life that perhaps you should shortchanging yourself by just a title or barely making ends meet? Why not growing as a person? And I promise you, the more you grow, the more positions that you will get open to because you grow. In business, for example, that's what they do. In business, you need to grow as a business. How do you do that? Well, first, you have to grow. In order for your business to grow, you have to grow. How many of you want a business here? Raise your hand. Be honest. Raise your hand. Come on. Want a business? Just raise your hand. Come on. I want you to raise your hand. Yes, thank you. You have to grow. You have to grow. You cannot be the same yesterday, today. And you cannot be the same tomorrow that you were today. You have to grow. You can grow. I know a lot of business women, for example, a lot of women here. I know a lot of business women who were single moms who have started a business and they're graduating with bachelor's and master's degrees. Why? Because they knew they could be better, regardless of the circumstances. My mom, for example, she worked really hard. And look, 4 kids. My sister works for the county. I work for the government. My brother is a nurse. My older sister has a developing business in parking spots and everything else. Why? Because we understood that we can be much better. And remember that your kids, if all of your parents are looking at you to see if you have the same mindset. If you don't have kids right now at this moment when your future happens, so especially you young folks, you need to start thinking that leaders have to go the extra mile to become better. You want extra money? Who wants a better pay raise? Come on, be nice, right? Then you have to do extra. Sometimes we ask for raises when we don't deserve it. And coming back to David, sometimes we put ourselves we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we try to hide things. Because the more you think you can hide it, the more you're going to end up doing the wrong things until you finish it. till you declare it. And you know what the Lord is delighted to hear from you? Is your shortcomings. Confessing to God. God, I've done this today, and I'm sorry. I have cursed. I have stopped wrong. I have done the wrong action. I have done this. And the Lord is delighted to hear that. Because the more you confess it, that means that you are waging war against your shortcomings. Right? Your bad habits, for example. Okay? And the Lord wants to hear that. Because you're His child. And a lot of people don't know that. Amen? You have to understand that God has created you to be an example, to be a carrier of His glory into your life. God, that's what God created you to be. God didn't create mistakes, but yet we make them. Does that make us a mistake? Our failures, does that make us failures? No. It just gives us more opportunity to learn. Think about your failures, for example. Think about all your failures that you have in your life. Think about it right now. Think about it. Every single one of them. Think the majority of them. Think about it. That's an opportunity for you to grow. And stop beating yourself up with it. But let the rest and learn from it and move on. That's the mature way to deal with your problems. Don't blame them on other people. Because children do that. Now, you adults, are you a child? No. Own it, learn from it, shake it off, and keep moving. Amen? Because God created you to move forward, not to be stagnant. And don't blame anybody for your stagnant. You're the one who creates a stagnant life. Because you have decided to be like David did. And do nothing and just hang out. Amen? So you have to understand a couple things. So what can we learn from this experience? And with this I finish. What can you learn from this experience? What can you learn from your experiences? In David's experiences, he learned. Did you know that when he was old, they will give him, watch this, and the Bible describes it, they will give him young ladies, an older man, okay, because he was cold. As an old age, he couldn't hold his body temperature. But watch this. And will give him virgins to keep him warm. But never again he touched another woman ever again. Even though he had beautiful women on his side to keep him warm, he never touched them. Because he learned from his mistakes. Yes, there are repercussions from the things that we do. Yes, there are. But still, David learned from his mistakes. You have to go through repercussions. You have to go through different things. And God exhorted him. Yes, he did. But he learned from his mistakes and never did them again. A great leader with shortcomings. But he learned his mistake. And did you know that his leadership, when there's always a good leader always provides peace to his people. David's leadership provided over 30 years of peace for the nation of Israel. Why? Because of his leadership. Now, what can we learn from that? How do you apply that in your life? You have to learn how to say no. Okay? One of the problems is millennial problems. It says this. They have the fear of missing out. Okay? So they go in debt. Oh, I don't feel I'm missing out, so I'm charging everything. And that's how these young people get in debt. I kid you not, it's on television. Fear of missing out. It's called SOMO. I think SOMO they call it sometimes. Fear of FOMO or something like that they call it. Fear of missing out. You have to understand something. And a lot of the times when an offer comes to you, it may not be from the Lord. And you have to learn how to say no. David could have stopped there right there and looked away, like he should have just made that decision. No, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm looking at the wrong woman who's married. I need to leave. I need to go with my men. I need to do my responsibility. I got women for my own, for myself. But he learned from his mistake, and he kept going. Did you know that after the baby was born, the baby from Bathsheba, the first baby that was born, God redeemed Bathsheba, by the way. But I'm not getting into that. But there was a baby out of this. And the baby only lasted 7 days. And David fasted 7 days. Because the word of the Lord came to the prophet that he had. And he told him, your baby is not going to live. And it's not going to live. It's only going to last 7 days. And David went and fasted for 7 days since the baby was born. On the 7th day, David, knowing that he was fasting and praying, he went and washed off. And then afterwards he said, I'm going to worship my God. He did not blame God for his problems. He did not blame God for his shortcomings. And a lot of people have a tendency to blame God for their shortcomings. God is not listening to me. God is not doing this to me. God is this and God is not. When God, all he wants you to do is to trust him. That's all he wants you to do. And walk according to his ways. And the best thing that he wants you to do, that he desires, that he longs the most, is to have an intimate relationship with you because he loves you. He loves every single one of us. And the God of heavens that holds the universe in his hand wants to have a relationship with you. Because that's how much God loves you. Amen? Why don't we stand up real quick? Did you learn something today? You did? You guys can stop that now. Both of us can stop that now. You have to understand that it's just, that the Bible is amazing, man. When you look at it in the right perspective, I talk to people, and have you ever read the book of Revelation? No, that scares me. I'm like, oh, and I said, wait a minute. If you look at it the right way, you will understand it, and you will be joyful because that's your day of redemption. But if you look at it in the wrong way, that will scare you. How many of you here, and I got this question for you. How many of you here really want to improve your situation? Raise your hand.